This has been something I've been waiting for since the Lululand episode. Blitz and Fizzarolli finally forced into a situation together where they have to work out their problems, allowing us viewers to in turn find out what really happened between them and result in the two characters finally reconciling with each other. But was this payoff for Blitz and Fizz's makeup worth it? Or is there an argument to be made that it was a bit rushed? You know, I'll be the judge of that. So the general premise for the episode starts with Fizz and Ozzy starting their morning together in Ozzy's palace. It feels a bit surreal seeing these two work off of each other so naturally when their counterparts Blitz and Stolas are total messes. They seem to both know what they want and what it is. A relationship that's pretty much all action and nothing else. But they do still care for one another quite a bit. Ozzy in particular was clearly worried for Fizz's well-being after Fizz says he was going to go to the greed ring for some side business. With Fizz being a big brand figure for Memon now, the risk of being captured by bounty hunters in the greed ring was extremely high. Though Fizz using his cute charm Pokemon ability is able to convince Ozzy to let him go. But Fizz being the total showboat he is doesn't keep any kind of low profile once he gets to the greed ring, coming out in a limo like he's about to walk down the red carpet at the Oscars, accompanied by a bunch of yapping little dogs too. After making some commotion down the sidewalk, he accidentally bumps into Blitz, who was in the greed ring getting some coffee, but got thrown out of the store for saying the coffee tasted too trashy. Obviously, these two are not happy to see each other at all, taking a few jabs at each other's personal lives to the point where Blitz in particular gets so mad, he tackles Fizz and they start fighting in the street, causing even more of a commotion than Fizz was by himself before. Meanwhile, we get these surprising yet very welcome returns of both Crimson and Stryker working out a deal in a nearby building. Crimson's business is still low on funds, so he resorted to hiring Stryker to earn his mob a big bounty. Luckily for them, Stryker is able to catch the fight between Blitz and Fizz outside, so he lassos them all the way into the building and keeps them both as hostages. Fizz, of course, being the more valuable one because of his social status as a performer, but Blitz can be kept by default too since Stryker still has some scores to settle with him. The B-plot for this episode shifts into some business between Ozzy and Stolas, which I'll talk about a little bit. I'm glad Stolas is out of the hospital now. That's cool. I think it would have been nice if we got to see him, get discharged or something before showing up at Ozzy's, but it's whatever. I'm still glad my boy's okay. Stolas came over there because he wants to help Blitz more with his business via Ozzy's help, since he's the one with control over the Osmodian crystals. Stolas essentially wants Ozzy to give Blitz a crystal so he can do IMP business without having to use Stolas' grimoire anymore. But Ozzy respectfully declines because he knows Fizz can't stand Blitz. I love how this guy had to correct himself from calling Fizz his partner to his business partner. It's so obvious what's going on between them, but Ozzy at the moment in time is still very sensitive about his public image to the point where he can't even confide in Stolas of all people about it. A character who's partaking in almost identical activities with another imp. This is followed by Ozzy getting a video message from Fizz, who's actually Crimson using Fizz's phone. He's holding Fizz hostage until Ozzy agrees to sign a contract of Crimson's demands. Blitz and Fizz are kept inside a cage at some random warehouse in the greed ring. Fizz in particular is freaking the hell out because he's just so out of his element. It did feel a little strange at first to see the side of Fizz because I for a bit had this perception of him that he wasn't really afraid of being in situations like this despite being a celebrity, mainly because of how the robotic version of himself acted in the Lululand episode. I guess I figured with how advanced the technology was with that thing that it was able to more or less copy Fizz's real personality down to a T, but that doesn't really seem to be the case, huh? Even in the case of him acting freely in the Ozzy's episode, it was technically a performance he put on, so perhaps that's why he didn't feel bad about roughing up Moxie a little bit there. The two of them go at it some more, specifically about their respective relationships with their royal hubbies. Blitz in particular is still trying to convince himself that Stolas only cares about fooling around with him to get off on the power dynamic between their two races when that's so obviously not the case. But Blitz is still scared of commitment / despises the upper class, so he can't fathom the idea of Stolas actually caring for him. As for Fizz, he definitely really cares about Ozzy, and even when Blitz is bringing up the high class, Fizz gets really defensive. Eventually, Blitz is able to free them both from their ropes using a knife he had attached to his boot, followed by some extremely impressive calculations just to press a button. Fizz could have easily stretched down there, but Blitz wanted to flex just how good he's gotten at handling himself in dangerous situations. This guy turned most of Crimson's men into a giant Rube Goldberg machine just to press a button on a remote. The action scenes that followed suit were very amusing and once again surprised me a bit in the moment when it came to Fizz. He was having quite the tough time dealing with just a couple of Crimson's goons due to his lack of proper combat experience, doing things like throwing bowling balls in their faces or using air horns in their ear to distract them. For a while, I was under the impression regular Fizz might have been on par with Stryker in terms of strength because I guess I just assumed that regular Fizz would be stronger than the robot. But after watching this episode, I'm leaning more towards him being, Moxie tier or even a bit lower than that. After the two of them gained some high ground over the mob, the truth about what went down between them finally came out. Back when Blitz and Fizz were teenagers, Blitz ended up causing a fire at the family circus tent, resulting in not only the presumed death of his mother, the burn marks on he and Blitz's face, but also the total incineration of Fizz's horns and limbs. Hence why he's got the mechanical prosthetics made by Ozzy that allow him to stretch so far. There was always that theory floating around the fandom that something, fire-related made Fizz use augments, and it's cool to see that theory finally get confirmed to be true. And it wouldn't surprise me if this event is the reason Barbie and Blitz's relationship became so strained over the years too. Blitz unintentionally causing the death of his own mother and losing two people he cherished so deeply in the process. All because he shoved aside a guy that was carrying a cake with lit candles for Fizz. What is a little strange to me though is why Blitz was so upset during that past event. He looked like he was about to give Fizz a birthday card but stormed off for whatever reason, even though Fizz was, happily waving him into the room. I do hope that does get explained later down the line, ideally in season 2 before it's over. Blitz seriously regrets how everything went down though, regretting being the indirect cause of the fire and not going back to help Fizz, who clearly needed help at the time. Fizz of course wonders why Blitz never tried to come and clear this up sooner, but Blitz said Fizz's people said Fizz didn't want to see him, while Fizz claimed no one ever told him Blitz even tried to contact him. I can see why how something this serious being chalked up to a misunderstanding can come off as weird to the viewers. I personally don't mind it because it feels kind of on brand for a show like Helluva Boss, but I could see where folks could have an issue with it. As for who was trying to keep them apart, well, the two of them never really gave a name. They were just saying they, but I'm willing to bet it was Mammon or his people. This is a character that's been built up for quite a while now and is still confirmed to have some kind of appearance before season 2 ends, so perhaps Blitz and Fizz will have some kind of confrontation with them about this. We'll see. I can appreciate Fizz looking on the bright side of things after learning about this too, in the sense that he's still not totally over what happened in the past, but in a twisted way, that situation allowed him to become who he is today and have someone like Ozzy by his side. Eventually, the two imps get cornered by Stryker and the rest of Crimson's mob, so Blitz devises a plan for them to break out using a busted window while Fizz distracts them, doing so by breaking out into an improvised song and dance to distract the baddies. Obviously, a song like this was pre-written by the crew themselves, but I very much appreciated how the lyrics towards the end really pushed the idea of Fizz making everything up as he went along.
I don't know how long I can do this. I'm gonna need another 60 seconds. Oh, fuck!
And it worked very well in the song sense, but also, in the sense of helping them escape, resulting in the warehouse collapsing right after. They try to use an abandoned car to get away, but Stryker, being the resilient guy he is, makes it out of the rubble and holds Fizz at gunpoint. Luckily, Blitz uses some quick thinking with his own gun and shoots a nearby gas container, letting Stryker on fire, which isn't enough to kill him, but he also ends up trapping Fizz accidentally in another circle of fire, just like in the past. I know it's not necessarily a mind-blowing thing for Blitz to do here, but I'll be damned if it didn't hit hard when he went in there to save Fizz and using some circus moves at that. Finally, he was able to at least partially make up for what he did back then by helping him here now. And seeing the two of them hug after that, it genuinely made me tear up during my first watch through. I've rarely teared up like that at Helluva Boss in particular, but this really got me. Probably because of how much I like Fizz as a supporting character, but still. Fizz even took back his word about not wanting Blitz to go up to Earth via an Osmodian crystal. He was like, oh, fuck it, let him have it. It's fine. He earned his right to do this. It really feels like these two are brothers again, doesn't it? Now, once again, the big question here, did this feel rushed or not? Because on one hand, something like this serious between two major characters being chalked up to a misunderstanding combined with everything being resolved in one episode could make this feel rushed for some folk, which I can understand. Now, me personally, I don't think it's all too bad. I thought it was done very well, actually, because I feel like Helluva Boss pacing gives the illusion of longer pacing than it actually is, at least to the folks who always watch the newest episodes when they come out and will typically be caught up for a long period of time before the next episode gets released. These episodes getting released as sporadically as they do with no fixed weekly or even monthly schedule can mess with one's perception of pacing, I think. That's not the only reason, but I'd say that's, a big part of it. Plus, it's not like these two were always enemies. These two grew up together all the way through their teen years. I know this was the first time they'd spent any real time together in apparently 15 years, but if you were that close to someone for as long as they were prior to the fire, it's relatively reasonable for feelings to be, forgiven more easily, I think. But I guess on the other hand, you could argue because they were so close, that would make it even harder. At that point, it's really just up to personal opinion / interpretation, really. I really did love this episode, though. It's probably my favorite in the season so far, maybe one of my favorites of all time. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Fizz as an ally to the IMP group now in the future. I'm curious to see how that dynamic is going to evolve. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this episode, as well as your thoughts on the reconciliation between Fizz and Blitz. Did you think the timing was too soon, or just right, or, somewhere in between? I would love to know your thoughts. Don't be a stranger enjoyed hitting that like button down below and subscribing for more videos like this in the future. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.